Welcome. This is Sunday, April 6th, 2020, and we're in third week for me, I think, of the stay-at-home orders here in Maryland. So I've been working on getting my workspace tidied up, and what I've done today is I've hooked up my Sinclair Spectrum and a disk drive, because I'd found a few while back, a tape which you can't see, says CPM 2.0. Basically, the Sinclair Spectrum 48K has ROM at address 0 upwards, then the screen, and then the rest of the 48K of RAM. This usually means that CPM, which loads at 0 upwards, programs are not allowed, can't really run. So a long time ago, back in the 80s, I built a RAM bank hardware which allowed me to replace the ROM area with a RAM. Also put another RAM copying this, backing up the screen area. And so the idea was that in CPM mode, one RAM bank was replacing the ROM, another RAM bank was replacing where the screen is, memory is, and it basically all loaded with a CPM program. And then at the vertical frame sync pulse interrupt, what it would do is it would rewrite what was supposed to be on the screen back onto the screen. So this basically meant that the screen most of the time had what the CPM program was trying to output with some snow, because obviously the program would write to that area memory for doing what it needs to do, which would just be displayed as dots on the screen. And then when the interrupt happened, then that would be the screen would be refreshed with its correct content. So this allowed basically CPM programs to run on the 48K. So I could basically had the BIOS and the control program on tape here, and so we'll see. I don't have the RAM banking, so it should load the tape, and then I have no idea what's going to happen. So I have the Spectrum hooked up to this little AV to HDMI, which also happens to do PAL to NTSC type conversions. Since this is a UK Spectrum, runs outputs PAL. And so let's see what happens. First I'll switch over to the, well, I don't need to do that now. What I'll do is I'll just start a few things up. I need to see what I'm doing, so I need to switch to the video. So I can turn on this Spectrum, and I can do load, quote, start the tape, and we'll see what happens. So back in the day, I had access to multiple different types of disk drive. We also had a Tatung Einstein, which ran CPM already, and also had the 3-inch drives, the ones that you can flip over. They're longer and narrower, more of a rectangular than the regular 3.5. And one of the programs I got on that format was Zork 1. And so one of the purposes of building the entire hardware setup was to be able to run Zork on the Spectrum. And in the end it worked. One of the big challenges with the Spectrum is that it's only 256 dots across. To get 64 plus characters, you needed a 4-bit dot wide font. So the font relies on the fact that you perceive the lettering, what the words say, even if you can't actually necessarily see individual characters. But I don't think I'll get that far. I'm sure it'll just crash. But if it doesn't, it doesn't. This is the 4-bit wide character set. So since the RAM banking's not there, I'm sure it'll just go boom. Yep. Okay. Anyway, at least the tape exists. I have no idea where the source is of that anymore. I don't think I probably don't have that. So even if I built the hardware, I'd have to reprogram it all from scratch, probably, or at least decode what's on the tape. So anyway, there you go. That actually wasn't too bad. So what I'm going to do next is to I did find a disk and I formatted it, so at least we can just show that the disk drive is still working. And there we go. So we have 178 somethings. I'm assuming it's K. It's always hard to tell. How do I do this? Save 1 semicolon quote test quote. Oops. Okay. That's probably correct. 1 semicolon quote D quote probably. No. Okay. Maybe not. Should be 1. Okay. I have no idea what syntax is. It's purely a guess. I do have the manual somewhere. That'd be star 1 probably. Cause it's star 1. It had to be a invalid syntax in a certain way. Not bin. No, not bright. Hey! God, it's terrible that I still remember some of these from 37 years ago. Did I call it D? Yes, I did call it D. Okay. Load 1 semicolon quote D quote. Okay. Star 1. That doesn't know it works. Just shift. Okay, let's run. Okay, so we do new. Load star 1. No. Load star 1 semicolon quote DD quote. Run. We have a working disk drive, at least. So that's good enough for me at the moment. So this has a CPM, a Spectrum program on it now. So yeah, it's a very successful